So, ladies and gentlemen, please take your seats. The Think 2030 debate event is about to start. Yes, dear honorable guests, ladies and gentlemen, it's really a pleasure for me to open the Think 2030 dialogue event today here in Madrid. My name is Eero Yrjö-Koskinen. I'm the Executive Director of the Institute for European Environmental Policy, one of the organizers of today's event. Actually, having spent the early years of my career in South America and understanding the importance of the Spanish-speaking community in the world, I have followed with special interest the latest developments here in Spain. And of course, I'm also relieved to learn that you have now a new government which will continue to promote many of the initiatives related to the European Green Deal. By holding the rotating presidency of the EU Council until the end of this year, Spain has had the crucial role of setting the agenda and leading negotiations on a number of important files related to climate and environmental protection. So let me congratulate the Spanish presidency for the major breakthrough achieved last week in the trilogue negotiations on the nature restoration law. Even though some of its objectives had to be scaled down, the agreement is a clear milestone to the EU, as stated by the Spanish minister Teresa Rivera, who led the negotiations in Brussels last Thursday. The agreement on the nature restoration law represents the first brick to building a strong biodiversity restoration policy in the EU, as mentioned by the European Parliament's lead negotiator, César Luena. So congratulations to the Spanish team for achieving this compromise. Next, a few words about today's event. Think 2030 is an evidence-based platform and conference series launched by IEP in 2018. Together with its 17 members of the Think Sustainable Europe network, we have started to organize dialogue events in conjunction to the EU presidencies. The previous one was held in Stockholm last April. Today's dialogue would not have been possible without the lead and help from a number of key partners, namely the Basque Center for Climate Change, BC3, the Elcano Royal Institute, and JPI Climate, which is the joint programming initiative on connecting climate knowledge for Europe. In addition, of course, I want to raise special thanks to the European Climate Foundation and, of course, the Spanish Ministry for Ecological Transition and Demographic Challenge, which have supported our event in terms of funding and this wonderful venue. You were really instrumental in making today's event possible. In our discussions today, we will try to identify areas where Spain and the EU, including, of course, Belgium, which will be the upcoming presidency, can promote a socially just transition. It will also look at future priority areas of the European Green Deal and deliver key messages on sustainability policies in view of the next mandate period of the EU Commission after the European elections, which will be held in June next year. So, to achieve these goals, we will have today 3 science policy sessions on the following topics. First, we will look at the role of the EU in governing the geopolitics of the net zero transition, discussing how to govern the objectives of global decarbonization and the role that the EU could have in implementing these climate pledges. Second, we will hear about the Spanish experiences in achieving a just transition. The discussions will reflect on the design of just transition policies in Europe and lessons learned in Spain in this respect. And finally, we will focus on the interaction between science and decision-making and how to engage with policymakers. Here, the aim will be to respond to the challenges that science is currently facing when addressing the causes and consequences of climate change and how Europe should proceed in bridging this gap. But before moving to these discussions, I wanted also to remind you of the important legacy of a person which IEP has special connection to, Mr. Domingo Jimenez Beltran, who passed away earlier this year. He played an important role in establishing the European Environmental Agency, acted as its first executive director, and later became an advisor at the Economic Office of the Spanish President and the founder and first director of the Spanish Observatory for Sustainability. In addition, he acted as an advisor to many governments, businesses, and institutes, including IEP, so he was a member of our Strategic Advisory Council until he passed away last February. It's an honor to organize our event today at this venue which bears Domingo's name. I will now turn to my colleague from BC3, Maria José Sanz, who will introduce the video greeting from Minister Teresa Rivera. And of course, I look forward to a lively debate today and wish you an interesting seminar. Maria José, you have the floor.
Ido is taller than me. Well, first of all, thank you very much for joining us today in this dialogue. I have to join Ido on acknowledging the effort made not only by the financial institutions and supporting institutions, by the network, but also by the panel coordinators, which did an excellent job on putting together panels that we hope you will enjoy. Following that, also to say that there are being efforts made by a couple of European projects that are coordination support actions that are trying to also integrate science in Europe with society and the scientific community, and I also want to acknowledge them. Following that, I will introduce Valvanera Ulargui. She's the director of the Climate Change Office in the Ministry of Ecological Transition. We had a long history together. We've been going through climate issues since the last 2 decades, and even more. And she will introduce the video by the Vice President, Teresa Rivera, and give us also a little bit of flavor of the Spanish presidency.
Thank you, Maria José. Thank you for the organization of the day, for your kind words also. First of all, I want to convey the apologies of Vice President Rivera. She would love to be here today, but she's dealing with another important issue in our country, and she sent a huge regards to all of you. Thank you for organizing that. Thank you for organizing in this seminar and this event in Spain. The Spanish presidency is very focused on the climate challenge. It's very focused also on the nexus between science, policy, and society, and how to translate that into good outcomes at the end of the semester. I think that from the very beginning, and when we outlined the priorities of the EU presidency dealing with this ministry, and also from a transversal and or horizontal perspective, we decided that climate and society should be part of the priorities of this presidency. And this is because not only because of the impacts that we are suffering and that we are increasing. It's the hottest year of the century and of the history. It's because we need also to produce a positive relate of the transition that we are facing. We are not going to work in a good direction. We are not going to achieve the 1.5 limit if we are arguing or we are defending all the time that this is the way of doing things. I think that the most important added value of the presidency is to put together science and policymakers, like we are performance in this event, speak together, and also to translate that to the society and to decision makers as fast and as clearly and a positive manner as possible. Why I insist that we need to be positive? Because the challenge that we are facing are impact not only the policymakers, how we are going to deal with that. We feel the responsibility in our shoulders is how we are going to transform the society, how we are going to transform the industry. Saying that, I think that the outcome of last week, it's also very important because nature is part also of this solution, and we cannot separate the debates. I think that is important that we look out of the box, but work with all the disciplines that we need. And this is also a big challenge that I know that many of you are suffering. So climate change is a process that is impossible to understand and assess without the contribution of a wider and diversity disciplines, ranging from the physical science, but going to the human behavior, and the result of the debates that we are having in Brussels, are aiming to head in that. We have also good results on the energy and climate councils in October that really goes beyond the traditional positions of the European Union. We were very focused on the energy debate in the Council conclusions for COP28. That means that we have a clear mandate to go to the COP and talk about energy transition and phase out of fossil fuels in a very well science-based manner, but also in a very good perspective, since we are implementing that with results. So we are implementing the just transition, we have good results in jobs, we have good results in economic growth, and we have also a very good story to tell on the experience that we are passing through in Spain, closing the coal sector. And I know that this afternoon, Laura will come to explain you how positive this process was. Thank you to the policy that we put in place, but also thank you to change the way we used to make politics. That means that thank you to involve people in the policy debate. The result of the just transition and the result of the closing give other opportunities and open, a green niche of working that is very worthy. Also, it's important to highlight that the next debate, the challenge that we have, we agree most of the important dossiers under the Fit for 55. We also have a very good result on the heavy-duty vehicles. That was tough, but very focused on the pathway that this sector should follow in the coming decades and in the next decade, decarbonizing all the heavy sector. But we need to look beyond that and say, well, what is the next step? What is the next step to be coherent? What is the next step to connect the dots of the policies that we are implementing right now, that we are agreeing right now, and the next step to the net zero? And this is why it is also important, and I will appreciate a lot of the commitment and how the scientific of Europe are also putting a lot of efforts in the challenge, how we are going to craft the next target, the next 2040 targets in line with the 2050 target. It will be crucial, and the debate is right now. It's true that many people say, come on, we have already finished, the Fit for 55, we need to implement it, and we need to implement it in the right direction, and we need to have good results in the implementation with all the co-benefits that I mentioned, the social commitments, but also the environmental commitments. But if we don't have a clear vision of the travel for the next decade, we can lose the opportunities to really, take the decisions that we need to take, because shortcuts is not the way of doing things. Taxonomy is the way to follow, and honestly, the role that the science needs to play in the coming years will be crucial. I know that is challenging. I know that we are asking sometimes, a lot of effort to put in this agenda, but the next step, it's our guiding start, and Europe should be ready to that. So thank you very much for your efforts. Thank you very much for your participation. The presidency is still with all of us. We also need to go to the COP. That is the next milestone at this level. You know, the most important COP after the Paris Agreement it was marked in the agenda is the global stocktake. We need to have, you know, good results, positive results, in order not only to lead the transformations that we are heading, but also to engage with the rest of the developed and the major economies regions in order to have, you know, satisfactory results. I think that we can do it. I think that the EU is ready to act as a bill bridger, but I think also that we need a push for all the rest of the society in order, as I say, not to take shortcuts, but a direct outcome to phase out fossil fuels, to doubling the energy efficiency, and to tripling the renewable capacity. This is the package that the COP presidency wanted to agree. It's a package that should implement the three elements of the package, so the renewable energy, the deployment of the renewable energy in a just manner, the enhancement of the energy efficiency is critical and it's important, but if we are not substitute the fossil fuel, it will be not really a very good mitigation outcome. That is what we needed at this COP. So Dubai shouldn't be a success if we don't have a good mitigation result, and the mitigation result passed through having a good energy transition pathway to be in line with the 1.5. So thank you very much. I count on you, and I hope that all the debates that you are having here in Madrid will be very successful. Thank you.
Buenos días y bienvenidos a Madrid. I could have loved to join you this morning. It has not been possible, but I send you this message. This message to welcome you to Madrid, but this message to stress how important I think it is that we keep this dialogue open. What we are trying to get is so tricky, so difficult, but so relevant that we need to keep this conversation open, to get a much more deeper understanding on how we can succeed in this transformation that we are promoting. In the Spanish presidency of the European Union, knowing that this will probably be one of the very last opportunities to end this cycle at the European level, we had a very charged agenda. A very charged agenda in crucial issues, in particular with three main issues when we talk about environment. The first of them, how we could ensure that the climate and energy policies wouldn't counted on this acceleration of our decisions during this mandate. Secondly, we needed to ensure that we could respond to what we agreed to do in Montreal last December. Yes, ecosystems, biodiversity is very important, are very important for all the Europeans. Maritime, marine ecosystems, but also inland ecosystems. This was why, knowing that it was not enough to protect and conserve, but we needed to restore, this was part of our agenda, together with other key aspects dealing with international negotiations on some very relevant treaties dealing with biodiversity and maritime ecosystems, including the possibility to count on an international binding treaty dealing with plastics in the ocean. There was a third piece which was very important. We talk about zero pollution on the ground, so protecting our soils against the climate impacts, but also against pesticides, fertilizers, or the erosion, desertification risk, but also air quality, dealing with mobility, how we produce our cars, dealing with waste management and dealing with packaging, but also dealing with wastewater, how we could improve the efficiency, the effectiveness of the use of such a precious good, which is water. There was a fourth piece which was very important too, which was the one related to how we could understand the strategic autonomy that we committed to ensure in the years to come. This was why, when thinking about the strategic raw materials, we knew that we had to knock on the door of the circular economy. We need to be much more effective, much more efficient. We need to recycle and reuse all the materials that we have already used and that are precious. And in order to get that, the eco-design is going to be very important. More than that, it is also a very good opportunity to build new partnerships, to really work on co-development and to build alliance with third countries. This was something that has been very important during the Spanish presidency of the European Union. But my message is not only on substantial aspects of the agenda. My message tries to convince you that in this critical time, when we Europeans, we humankind, know that these are precious values in a very limited, finite world, we need to ensure that the transformation that we need to facilitate in such a short period of time, so in such an intense manner, does count on people. People needs to be sure that this is inclusiveness, that this is new opportunities, that the deep transformations that we are promoting do not create additional difficulties, but do ensure that there are opportunities to facilitate the proper response without creating additional harm. So the social dimension of the environmental transformation of our economies, of our societies, is really important. And the social dimension being combined with the economic parameters, with the environmental science, is part of what we would like to ensure in this conversation with you, working in think tanks and research communities that understand that a deeper understanding on what it is going on, a proper modeling on how it can evolve, a proper assessment of the policies that we promote, to be sure that there is an integrated and updated review of what we do is so important. This is why I think that counting on the results of your assessments, research, programs and understandings is going to be key, not only for the Spanish presidency, but for us Europeans as such. So to evolve towards a new European cycle where the connection between the society, the economy, the institutions and the environment is fully reconciled. Thanks so much for being with us today. Thanks so much for sharing with us your knowledge and your understanding, and please enjoy and discuss. It is very important and very appreciated.